Good afternoon, everybody. So these are the ALPS Innovation Awards finalists session. My name is David Sommer. I'm co-founder of Kudos. And today is actually a really significant and special day for us at Kudos because it's actually our birthday today. We are 5 years old today. And it's a special day because it was actually 5 years ago at this very conference that myself, Melinda Kenaway, Charlie Rappel sat down in the evening with a glass of wine, a couple of glasses of wine actually, and had the idea for Kudos. So this is a very sort of special conference for us. And if you have ideas for businesses, I can recommend the red wine at ALPS conferences. It really is top notch. So the awards again are sponsored by MPS, so we're very grateful to MPS. Thank you. This year we had 40 applications, and the quality, again, astounds us every year, the breadth, the range of different submissions that we get. So we have innovated ourselves this year, and all 40 submissions, the summaries of those, the statements of innovations, are available on the ALPS website. So you can actually have a look at not the full submissions, but the summary statement of innovation for all 40 awards, so do take a look. We have 11 judges on the panel, which represent publishers, librarians, vendors, consultants, and standards bodies. So we've got a really broad cross-section of this community to judge those awards. And we managed to narrow it down to just 6, and that, as you have a look through the website, that was quite a task to get it down to just 6. So we really do have the best of the best, and we're going to be hearing from those 6 in a moment or two, and there's some nervous people in the front couple of rows here. So you've already done the hard work by becoming a finalist, so you can relax. We have 5 minutes for each of our speakers, and we think we have most people here, as Audrey says. It's going to be a bit of a technological bit of fun and games here because we have, unfortunately, Sian is not able to be here from INASP, so she's sent her presentation in, so hopefully all of the tech will work there. It makes it much more exciting, doesn't it? I've never felt so alive. So in a moment, we'll hear first of all from DeltaThink, who will be talking about their open access data analytics tool. Then we have Escalex from IFIS Publishing and Molecular Connections, who will be talking about their food regulations database. We'll hear from INASP and their AuthorAID product for MOOC supporting publishing in the global south. We'll hear from Publons about recognizing and rewarding peer review. We'll hear from SourceData from EMBO, which is a tool to search papers based on the data held within their figures. And finally, from Springer Nature and their SharedIt initiative for legitimate sharing to different audiences. So that's the plan. The winners will be announced tomorrow at the awards dinner. So with Escalex, please welcome Rhianna and Krishna.
Hello, everybody. So I'm Rhianna from IFIS Publishing. This is Krishna from Molecular Connections.
Good evening. And having won the ALPSP Innovation Award last year for Wiley Scheme Planner, yes, we actually did the UI UX for them. I'm quite thrilled to be here presenting the Escalex and to see it in the top 6 already. So here is what we have planned. Over to you, Rhianna.
We're just going to have a really quick look at what inspired us, and then we're going to have a look at the technology behind it and show you a quick demonstration video. So what inspired us to develop Escalex? We conducted a lot of market research, talking to academia, to government, to industry. A lot of that involved contextual inquiry, and it showed us that food regulations are a huge information challenge. It's vital, but it's really difficult and time-consuming to find them. And it became clear that there was no existing resource that brought it all together in a granular way and made it easy to navigate and digest the information. So, how did we go about meeting that particular need? Well, this international partnership brings together the best of our 2 companies, Molecular Connections with their exceptional informatics capabilities, and IFIS with our expertise in managing complex food and beverage information. And together we developed Escalex, which really brings something new to the food law community. Now, I was going to talk about what makes it unique and innovative, but we're actually going to skip this slide in the interest of time, and because you're going to see it in the demonstration video. So, Krishna, over to you.
Thanks, Rhianna. And the technology behind Escalex comes from Molecular Connections and their proprietary platforms, which are almost 3 decades old. As you see, there's something called MC Parse, Lexicon, Minor Entity Store, and Analysis, which has come together to form Escalex. MC-Parse is a document parser which brings unstructured content into a standard format. And Lexicon is our ontology management tool. And Minor is pretty interesting, which kind of fingerprints the document and creates the metadata at a click of a button, and then that gets transformed into an entity stores through which people can actually visualize and make decisions out of it. So that's how it works. And we've used the best of the technology as the backbone, Solar, W3C, Spark, so on and so forth. So I'm sure you would like to look at the demonstration of how the product would look like. Here is a demonstration.
So we're incredibly proud of the powerful product that we've developed here, and we're thrilled to be up here as a finalist today. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Great.
So should you have a question about anything related to food science regulation, ask Escalex or even Rhianna. She would be around in the, maybe you can catch her through one of those break sessions here, and we're open to take questions. Thank you.
Great. Thank you both very much. Thank you. Okay, so we've spun the ALPS roulette wheel of fate, and next up are Publons. So Publons, you are next.
Andrew Preston, co-founder and managing director of Publons. I'm sorry that I can't be there today to present in person, but hopefully this video does the job. Before I get started, I want to say thanks to the awards committee for the opportunity to present, and also pass on my congratulations to all of the other finalists. Well done. We believe that peer review is at the heart of our ability to trust and understand research. But it's feeling the strain as publishing rates continue to increase. It's increasingly hard to find qualified and willing reviewers, which slows down turnaround times. And we're seeing more and more risks related to fraudulent review. Our mission at Publons is to solve these problems, speeding up research by harnessing the power of peer review. The first step toward that is to turn peer review into something that is good for your career. This means you need a way to record it and to verify the work that you've done. This is our first product, and nearly 200,000 reviewers are now using the system. Together, they've added almost 1 million reviews to Publons. With Publons, you have a simple way to keep a record of your reviews for all of the journals that you work with. Behind the scenes, we verify your reviews and then make them available in a couple of different ways that help you to highlight your expertise in order to advance your career. First, we offer a public profile, showing your reviews while making sure that we respect the privacy requirements of reviewers, authors, and journals. On Publons, you get recognition for open or closed reviews, and we take care of the details of making it all work. Here you can see the pre- and post-publication reviews that I've done over the years, some of which are open, some of which are closed, and the green ticks show those reviews that I've verified. Second, we have a formal record of your verified reviews. You are able to download this report, which makes it perfect for performance reviews and funding applications. And indeed, this is what people are now doing. Take Matthias Lean, for example. He reached out to us after his most recent promotion to say that he had received specific feedback from his supervisor that his Publons review record had really helped in the process. We're hearing this more and more from Publons reviewers. On the flip side, we continue to hear from publishers that they are facing two critical challenges. The first, for the editorial team, is in motivating reviewers to complete reviews. For the marketing team, or the author services arm, there is an increasing recognition of the need to provide a better experience for the researcher. And it's for those reasons that we set up the publisher integration that we offer. Out of the box, this enhances the reviewer experience. Publons integrates into the editorial management system so that reviewers are offered recognition when they're invited to review, given the ability to opt in when they're writing the review, and thanked once the manuscript they've reviewed is published. This is all publisher branded, and the idea is that recognition for review is a service that publishers can offer reviewers, building brand affiliation and turning reviewers into repeat reviewers, readers, and future authors. This is highly engaging. We hear time and again that this sort of service means that reviewers are more likely to review as a result and are more inclined to submit papers to those journals. In fact, in a recent survey, we found that 50% of researchers say they are more likely to complete a review if they are offered recognition through Publons. This is why 6 of the top 7 publishers are now using Publons. In fact, we have more than 1,400 journals fully integrated into the system. So that's our reviewer recognition system, the first step in our playbook to improve research through peer review. The second is in our work to expand and improve the pool of available reviewers. We've recently launched the Publons Academy. This is an online course that teaches the core competencies of peer review, gives researchers the opportunity to review their first paper and get feedback from their supervisor, and then finally connects them with editors. Third, we're working on tools to help editors to find, screen, and contact reviewers. Our search tool it's still in its early stages, but we're seeing a lot of demand from editors for the comprehensive results and the 360-degree view we can give of the researcher, showing both their reviewer expertise and their workload. We are testing this on our partner dashboard now. All publishers have access to the basic tools on the partner dashboard, so if you don't have access already, get in touch and we'll set you up. All of the things that I've talked about work much better at scale, which is why we've recently announced that Publons has joined Clarivate Analytics, the home of Web of Science. We believe that the scale and the citation network of Clarivate, combined with our reviewer network, will allow us to provide tools that truly speed up research. Thanks again, and best of luck to all of the other finalists. Just so you know, I'll be there in person from tomorrow onwards. Hope to see you soon.
Right, thank you very much to Andrew and Publons. And Andrew's colleague, Laura Harvey, is here from Publons, so go and chat to her as well. And Andrew, flight-wise, hopefully all being well, he'll be here tomorrow night. Okay, so next up then are Delta Think. So Delta Think, please welcome finally Anne and Dan. Delta Think.
Hi, Dan and I are very happy to be here today to tell you about the Delta Think Open Access Data and Analytics tool. Delta Think has been a consultancy for more than a decade, and over the past few years, we've seen a lot of commonality in the questions that our clients had about open access. We've also seen a lot of disparity in the data sources that are available to them to answer those questions. Almost everyone we speak with wants to be data-driven when they make decisions, but unfortunately, the disparity that they face in data sets has made it very difficult to do so in a reliable way. So we decided we would build a one-stop shop. We would gather and normalize publicly available data. We would leverage our position as a neutral third party to collect private data, de-identify it, and aggregate that as well. And we would curate and normalize the entire data set, providing a layer of analysis on top of that on diverse topics, and we have committed to keep it continually updated. The result was the Open Access Data and Analytics tool, which allows a user to read what we've written, if they would like to, our own analysis, to interact with graphs like the one shown, and hone in on their questions that they might have, manipulate the data, slice it and dice it. Or for premium subscribers, they can download our data and use it in their proprietary environments. And Dan now is going to take you through a couple of questions that someone might want to answer with the Open Access Data and Analytics tool.
Thank you. So one of the very common questions organizations are interested in is about pricing. How do their article processing charges compare with the industry as a whole, and also within activities in their specialty? And the tool offers us a number of ways to look at that particular question. The first one is, am I cheap or am I expensive? And you can see that at a glance in the tool by looking at a sample of publishers' maximum and minimum prices. Diving into the data, however, gets you a more nuanced and interesting picture. So another question is, what are the common price points that others are using? And this visualization, a screenshot from the tool, shows that. The tallest bar in the middle is the $3,000 to $3,500 range. Of course, organizations are interested in how things apply to them. So for example, with a click of the mouse, you can filter that common pricing view to show just fully open access journals. And you'll see a very different shape to the spread of the data within that. Another way into pricing is to look at influences of pricing. So the tool models out how prices are plotted against basically a proxy of impact factor. And again, you can then start to interpret the data. So in this case, the cluster of yellow dots to the left suggests that fully open access journals are tending to be cheaper than their hybrid ones shown in green. The cluster of dots at the bottom right showing high processing type APCs are being asked for relatively modestly impactful journals. So again, you can get a sense of the kind of policy and approach in the marketplace. You can also filter this data so you can see how it applies to you. In this case, if I was a social sciences publisher, this is how the data looks. We have 316 subjects in this area of the tool, around about 10,000 pricing data points. You can even color code things by some subject, for example, if you want. The second example question looks at macro trends. So in this case, how might funding influence manuscript flow? So you can look at how much different countries are spending on R&D every year. And back to our second keynote speaker, that's a pretty good indicator of where future research output and papers might lie. You can use the tool to zoom in, so that bunching of bars at the bottom, you could zoom in to expand that to tease out nuances behind the data. And finally, on this question, you could also group funding spend by different topics. So for example, the tool group of bars in the center, that's tracking spend of life sciences R&D investment over time. And then you can then, again, start to interpret that data. So for example, you see a drop-off in spend about 2 or 3 years after the 2007-2008 crash, and you can then use that to back into some sort of decision-making about your future plans.
So just to recap, step up here. So just to recap, we built this tool with the idea that we want to help people to make data-driven decisions. They can use the Open Access Data and Analytics tool to formulate a strategy in open access, to benchmark the strategy that they have, or to stay informed. We've also done this in such a way that it's accessible to anyone regardless of their ability of data manipulation expertise. So someone who's not comfortable with manipulating tools or downloading data can read the analysis that we've done. Someone that's more comfortable can use the interactive features that we have and hone in on their own questions. And the experts in the room can download the data and pull it into their own proprietary environment with a premium subscription. Also, sorry, Dan, can you go back? I just want to mention here, this page gives you a little bit of a flavor for all the different topics that we have. So Dan only touched on just a small portion of our topics. And then finally, anyone in the room, and we encourage you to do this, can go to that website and register for free for our monthly open access news and views, where we do a topic, some analysis every month. So thank you very much. And again, we're very happy to be here.
Thank you very much, Anne and Dan. Okay, so next up then is INASP AuthorAID, and as I mentioned, Sian Harris is stuck on a plane somewhere near Bristol in the UK at the moment, so she has sent her slides and audio, so if the technological karma is there, all will be well, so press play.
Good afternoon, everybody. I'm really sorry not to be here in person, but pleased that the publishing innovation that is PowerPoint is allowing me to share this talk anyway. Unfortunately, I encountered the dual challenges of flight cancellation and a broken arm. And it's perhaps appropriate to be thinking about challenges as I come to share with you the challenges that INASP's AuthorAID project is helping to address through our massive open online courses in research writing. I'm going to start by showing you some photos. This is Kapita Karki from Nepal, and this photo shows her doing a high-altitude flora and fauna study. In Somalia, this is Mahad Dirinye doing field data collection to analyse the value chain on livestock, fishery, agriculture and services in the Publons state of Somalia. Bhuvanash Kalal is pictured here in his lab in India. Here he is studying different biomarkers on saliva and serum samples from autistic children. These researchers, and thousands of others, have one thing in common. They have all completed an online course in research writing from AuthorAID, as Molly, a PhD student from Zimbabwe, is demonstrating here. Globally, only 27% of researchers are in the Global South, and only 1.1% of published papers come from Africa. But some of the world's biggest problems occur in the developing world, as does much of the vital contextual knowledge to address them. I'd like to share a quote from Jo Beale, who, as well as being the chair of INASP's Board of Trustees, is also an executive director at the British Council. She said recently, "Without the research capability and without the use of locally produced and locally honed evidence, we will not create the universal approach that is envisaged by the Sustainable Development Goals." Part of the reason that Southern research output is so low today is the huge range of barriers that developing world researchers, especially early career researchers, face in getting their research published. This slide shares some of the common concerns that we hear. As part of our AuthorAID project, our research writing MOOCs tackle this challenge on a large scale, thousands of researchers at a time. The AuthorAID research writing MOOCs are based on our understanding of the needs and contexts of the researchers we work with and addressing them, for example, by providing low bandwidth, straightforward language, and a low level of assumed knowledge. The MOOCs also use the strength of the AuthorAID community, with facilitators from around the world, and they go on to build on that community. AuthorAID MOOCs see impressive completion rates. Particularly, they see high engagement with female researchers, a group that is typically more disadvantaged in the regions we work in. They also see participation of researchers from fragile states and refugee situations. But does it make a difference? The answer is yes. According to a recent study, 34% of people who've done an AuthorAID online research writing course have already got papers published, a particularly impressive percentage given that we only launched the MOOCs 2 years ago. And there are other benefits too, such as awareness raising of the value of things like ORCID. For example, all participants are required to register for an ORCID at the start of the course. Participants also learn about the risks of dodgy publishing practices. Carolina in Kenya on completing one of the AuthorAID research writing MOOCs, created a seminar for her colleagues on how to spot and avoid dubious journals. And this work is also about local capacity building. After taking an AuthorAID MOOC, Funmilayo Doherty of Nigeria was inspired to run an online research writing course herself with a grant from AuthorAID. This course at her institution had 71 participants from 12 countries. There are so many exciting stories that I could tell you about the difference that this support is making, and I'm sorry that I'm not in the Netherlands to share this in person, but please feel free to contact me or the AuthorAID team in any of these ways. And also you can speak to my colleague Andy Nobes, who runs these MOOCs and will be at the awards dinner tomorrow. Enjoy the rest of the conference and good luck with those high winds. Thank you for listening.
I quite like having these voices booming down from above. It's a bit like the Wizard of Oz. I kind of want to check behind the curtain and see what's behind there. Right, so next up then is Springer Nature SharedIt. So please welcome Sarah Greaves.
Thanks, David. Thanks, everyone. My opening joke was going to be I was the last thing standing between you and the bar, but obviously I'm not now, so apologies. There's one more to go. But it really is our pleasure to be here to share with you our innovative solutions to what we think is an age-old problem in academic research. The fact that authors and researchers want to share their work with one another, and they want to try and do that in a legal and a free way as possible. We've been working on this initiative called SharedIt, which we believe is helping push forward the boundaries of how authors can do this by providing a free legal way for authors to share their content with other users across the globe. So, SharedIt. As I've said, this is a problem people have been wanting to show. Oh, it hasn't gone? Yes, it has. Have been wanting to solve for an incredibly long time. I'm an academic by training. I remember being in the lab. I remember when you publish your work, you really want to share it. In days gone by, when I was still doing my PhD, I used to do that by emailing someone and asking for a copy of the paper. They would then probably post you a printed copy of that manuscript. That then moved on to people printing out PDFs and emailing them around, and doing it in a way that they knew probably wasn't legal and probably sort of affected their copyright agreements with publishers. Now we move into an era where users are sharing their data in different ways. They're using social networks, they're using scholarly collaboration networks, they're using social media. There's a lot of things happening, but what is staying the same underneath it all is that academics need to be able to share work and share work with one another in order to advance discovery. So how does we, as the publishing industry, help authors do that in a way that is both legal, but means also that authors know they're sharing their final published copy, and that people who are accessing information know that that copy has not been changed or altered, that it is the final published version. Springer Nature is committed to trying to advance discovery and work with our users to find solutions to things that they find an absolute massive pain point. And this is one of the things that authors say is a big problem for them, being able to share their work. And so when we were Nature Publishing Group a few years ago, we tried an initiative where we worked with our partners at Digital Science, ReadCube, to create this legal content sharing initiative for authors. We used ReadCube technology to start this initiative at 49 journals, and after the merger with Springer Nature, we have now rolled that technology out across our Springer Nature portfolio. During the time we were running a trial at Nature Publishing Group, we saw over 1.3 million shares of published articles from within Nature Publishing Group journals. So SharedIt, how does it work? We believe this is a natural evolution of the sharing principles that underpin academic endeavour. SharedIt provides links to authors and to readers, if you're a subscribed reader, of a read-only version of the final published peer-review paper. Working with ReadCube, users can access the SharedIt version via a specific link. The paper can be viewed and it can be annotated. It cannot be downloaded, saved, or printed. And we encourage our authors and our subscribers to share these papers in a non-commercial manner, so for personal use only. That means you can host that link anywhere. You can put it on your social media platform, you can put it in your scholarly collaborative network profile, you can also put it on your website, and you can put it in your institutional repository website. There is also no limit to the amount of times that link can be shared or that the paper can be downloaded. We believe, therefore, that SharedIt is really benefiting the research community. both the authors, who want their work to be accessed by as many people as possible, the readers, because people want to be able to access the final published version of a paper, but also another important group, the media, the press, patient advocacy groups, people who need access to the information but need it for a different purpose than the primary researchers. So here's some statistics for you since we've been running this trial. We launched it in October last year, and I have some updated stats that I can run through with you now. We've enabled this across over 2,500 of our journals across the Springer Nature platform. January to May numbers are up there, but what we've seen now for our authors is we've had over 775,000 tokens created for our authors since January this year. Our authors receive this term link in their accept letter, and when they're published, they have a link that they can then share wherever they want. When you're a subscriber, through IP recognition, you will see a link on the paper when you're reading it, which you can then share with other users. Since January, we've now seen over 830,000 subscriber shares. Now, another thing that's incredibly important to us is this sharing with media outfits. So the BBC, New York Times, Wired, places that might be covering our authors' work, but also patient networks. So there's a breast cancer charity in America, for example, who are very large users of the SharedIt initiative. And what we've seen actually with the media white list, as we call it, is that since January we've now seen over 870,000 shares within this media category, which means it's leading the way. It means that people are interested in those big papers. When we talk about climate change, we talk about cancer, we talk about Alzheimer's, that are getting the coverage at BBC or getting the coverage at New York Times. People can actually access the primary research and read it for themselves, which we think only benefits the education of the general public, but also benefits our authors in getting the recognition for the work that they deserve. So, in summary, the SharedIt story so far. We ran this pilot, we analysed what it did, how people accessed the work or not, and how much it was used or if it was abused. We've not seen any abuse of this system whatsoever. Our authors and our subscribers have been sticking to the guidelines and the terms and conditions that we've given them. So following the merger, we decided to roll this out across all of our Springer Nature titles. Most societies that we publish on behalf of have adopted this initiative. Societies can decide not to join in, but most have decided to adopt this initiative. We've also been digging into the data, and we're going to work to make this more outwardly focused. So every quarter, we will do an update via our press team to share the data more widely with the research community. We see that students and young researchers are the most active users of SharedIt. As you might expect, perhaps they're the people who don't necessarily have access through a site license, or they don't know how to access the content in a different kind of way. We also think it's really interesting that even though the countries you would expect to see dominating access to the literature are still there, China, the US, Europe, you also see other countries coming through in that top 15. So South Korea, Brazil, and India are big users of this SharedIt initiative. We also see that high-profile papers dominate sharing. So anything about CRISPR will dominate sharing, and anything about certain diseases such as Alzheimer's or cancer will dominate the sharing. We also see that sharing is growing. It's no longer actually subscriber to non-subscriber sharing is the biggest category. It's now this media whitelist sharing. The sharing with the more general public is actually now leading the way, which is what we saw originally in the first Nature Publishing Group trial. So it's quite interesting to see that that's now following on. We've also had some great feedback, lots of tweets and lots of complimentary messages about a publisher trying to do this and trying to help our authors. But we believe there's great potential to do more. We're currently in the middle of doing a book trial, so we're trialing sharing for some of our books authors and sharing some of their chapters. And we're also looking to trial sharing for our peer reviewers. Maybe they would also like the ability to share papers that they've peer reviewed. But what actually we're going to be led by is what our users want. This is really an initiative driven about our authors. We knew that this was a big pain point for them, and we felt that we as a big publisher should be helping them address this issue. And we're really pleased to see that other publishers are now following us into this space and looking at ways to create a free legal sharing initiative for their authors. So whatever the SharedIt becomes will actually be driven by our authors, and we continue to listen to them and find out what they want so we can develop the next stage of SharedIt. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Sarah. Very good. And then finally, we have SourceData from EMBO, and I'm hoping Thomas is here. Yes, he is. Let's welcome Thomas.
Okay. So thank you very much. It's going to be a presentation without music, without dancing, solo, so bear with me. It's my great pleasure to present SourceData, a project we have initiated a couple of years ago with the European Molecular Biology Organization based in Heidelberg to make scientific data published in the biomedical science more discoverable, and also to start connecting the scientific publishing process with the emerging infrastructure and ecosystem of open data in life sciences. More specifically, the platform we are developing is a platform that is dedicated to make papers searchable based on data contained at the heart of the paper, the figures, and to allow directed search queries that return papers really based on the data shown in the figures. And we use the information naturally provided in the figure legends and the illustrations, and we convert that into a machine-readable structured metadata format that represents biochemical entities like small molecules or genes and proteins, and then specify whether they have been perturbed, manipulated, or observed and measured. And this gives a very compact representation of the experiment that can be fed into a database where experiments and papers are connected based on their common entities, and the relationships can be searched in essentially a knowledge graph. So we have built a series of 3 tools: a curation tool, a search engine, and an application called Smart Figures. So the curation tool has been designed to be able to be inserted in the editorial workflow of a journal, and this is one of the versions of the workflow we have been using at EMBO. And the search interface allows to do directed queries. Here we are looking for experiments that test the influence of insulin on glucose, to take an example. And the search engine returns, of course, papers that contain the experiments that are relevant to the query, but also opens up directly, automatically, the figure that represents the results of the experiments that has been searched. And this provides really a deep access into the heart of the papers, and can reveal what we call the dark matter of the literature. This is one example where a figure has been published in that journal, but the equivalent query on PubMed would just return 0 result, absolutely nothing. And that's an example where even Google has issues. Now, the next application of SourceData is Smart Figures that visualize the data in the context of related data. The key entities involved in the experiments are highlighted and linked to external databases that provide a wealth of information for those who might not be experts in the field. But it also links automatically to experiments and data sets that are very closely related and that test the same hypotheses as the query data. And finally, the users can explore in a very intuitive way the knowledge graph by going upstream or downstream to navigate now from one paper to the other through the web of connected figures and connected data. So in collaboration with SourceData, Wiley, with the help of 67 Bricks, did a remarkable job in implementing the Smart Figures lab website, where the Smart Figures application has been integrated into a publishing environment. And there, the Smart Figures, which is essentially a JavaScript application, is injected into the online version of the papers and queries remotely the SourceData API. And users can simply launch this application from the respective figures and start their exploration, hopping from one paper to the other through the web of connected figures based on the structure of the data. So a little bit of perspective. We have seen how with SourceData, we extract structured information about the data and how we can power search and transform that into data-centric search queries. But our ultimate goal is really to provide the data behind the figures such that people can use them. And at EMBO, we have been now doing this since a couple of years, where we request from authors to provide the data behind the figures. So with the Smart Figures, we are engaging now with databases, and this is an example with the EBI BioStudies example that we have piloted with them, where the source data, the data that are behind the figures, are linked directly from the Smart Figures, and these data become searchable but also reusable. And I think after the plenary lecture at the beginning of the meeting, we are all now convinced that this is very important. It is crucial to provide transparency in scientific publishing, and this is, of course, getting more and more important at times where trust in scientific publishing is challenged from time to time due to scientific integrity or reproducibility issues, as we heard a couple of minutes ago. So to finish, I wanted to share with you also the most recent advances we have been doing in automating the source data process. We have used the large data set that we have accumulated now with source data to build and train deep learning artificial intelligence algorithms that are able to interpret the meaning of a term depending on the context of a sentence. And if I start the video here, and essentially, even if a term appears in two different sentences, the algorithm is able to interpret the context and assign its specific semantic meaning. Here we have a gene, a cancer gene called P53 that appears in two different sentences. In the first one, the meaning is really that P53 is the object of the measurements, while in the second sentence, P53 is the target of an intervention, and the algorithm is able to interpret that and extract essentially a highly structured representation of the experiment directly from the plain text. So we are really excited about these type of technologies, especially in a workflow that involves a proof correction step with the authors, where the machine learning algorithms can be supervised by the expertise of the authors. And we call that the scientist in the loop workflow, and I think this is going to play a major role both in AI and in publishing, because it extends the function of publishing from dissemination to knowledge extraction, where we connect the expertise of scientists and researchers with machine learning. So in summary and to conclude, source data provides tools now that facilitate discovery and browsing of papers and data sets based on the structure of the data. It starts to bridge the scientific publishing process in the life science with open data ecosystem. And we're really excited by this concept of scientists in the loop AI, where we can now start to connect the expertise of scientists with machine learning. And I think this in the future is going to open a whole range of new opportunities for scientific publishing. Thank you very much.
Great. Thank you very much, Thomas. So thank you to all of our finalists, all 6 finalists. You can see what a diverse range of entries we had, and how hard a job it was for the judges to actually decide. But there can only be one winner. Or can there? All will be revealed tomorrow night at the dinner. Thank you very much indeed.